More recently, mid-December, there was the attack on the Catholic parish, I think in northern Gaza, which the Pope himself condemned as an act of terrorism. A mother and her daughter in the church compound were sniped and murdered by Israeli sniper. Um, yeah, you have these attacks where the Vatican put out a statement describing, saying that there was no possible military objective. There was no, they weren't being used as human shields. This was just cold. The cardinal in England described it as cold-blooded murder, which it was, of
Which it
course.
was. Yeah.
And so
And
the
that's
whole
happening.
pretense.
And that's happening like on a gigantic scale. Like you can name these individuals, and what did Stalin say? One person killed is murder. 10,000 or 1,000,000 is a statistic, and that's what's happening. Is they're trying to turn this into a statistic.
Yeah, and in terms of statistics, over 22,000 now. This is minimal. Are estimated dead, and I say that's a conservative estimate because, of course, there are many, many more who are missing and buried under the rubble. People don't know the true extent, the true death toll, so they can only put out this kind of conservative, minimal estimates of the numbers of dead. 70%, 70% are women and children. Well, what would you expect? What would you expect the proportions to be if Israel was actually targeting Hamas? Would you expect the proportion of women and children dead to be approximately the proportion of women and children in the population? Well, this is the proportion you would expect if Israel was indiscriminately bombarding the civilian population. You would expect about 70% to be women and children, and
That's
that's
right,
exactly what we see. Why?
that's the
Because
populace.
Israel is indiscriminately bombing the civilian population.
Right.
It's simple.
Right. And
So
the
this idea that Israel is targeting Hamas is ludicrous. Anyone with eyes to see can open their eyes and see that Israel is not targeting Hamas. Israel is targeting the civilian population. It has declared its intention openly, repeatedly since the very beginning to target the civilian population.
That's right.
This is I don't know why this doesn't get through people's skulls. I don't get it. Like when you have Israeli leaders openly declaring their intent, and of course, they have this caveat. The IDF puts out these statements that we're doing, in response to appease the U.S. regime that is supporting this.
Right.
The U.S. requires the IDF to put out these statements of like, well, we're taking steps to limit the harms to the civilian population. Another example, several weeks ago, finally, there was only the Rafah crossing was open for humanitarian relief, which is a cynical farce because even before 10/7, there were 500 truckloads of humanitarian supplies needed per day through the crossings just to maintain the Palestinian populations at subsistence level. 500 trucks per day. Right now, at a time when that needs to be ramped up,
right,
like many times,
yeah,
there's like maybe about 100 trucks a day. It's a cynical propaganda, public relations ploy. It doesn't even begin to meet the needs at a time when the humanitarian, it's just absolute humanitarian catastrophe.
You're seeing entire blocks of neighborhoods just crumble.
Entire multi-generational families wiped out.
I would encourage everybody, go to jeremyrhammond.com, go look up the article on December 12th. And all you need to do, I would recommend read the article, look at the pictures though. Just look at the pictures that he provides. There is no way there's any kind of targeting going on.
So let's describe those graphics. And so that article, what prompted me to write that article was an interactive feature in the New York Times where they showed satellite imagery from northern Gaza of what the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, have been doing in North Gaza. And so they had before, and there were these huge graphic features where there was a slider, and you could just slide it left and right and see and to compare before and after of what Gaza looked like from satellite surveillance. And the IDF has literally turned North Gaza into a wasteland. And you have a before, and you see neighborhoods, buildings, orchards, farmland, greenhouses, and you swipe it, and it's all gone, just leveled, everything. Like they've turned it into a desert wasteland. They have flattened it completely.
Completely gone.
And it's just image after image of just wasteland. So evidently, Hamas uses orchards as floral shields.
Well, the
I mean,
tunnel.
how do you
There's
explain
tunnels,
this?
right? There's tunnels everywhere.
It's insane that for people to say that, oh well, Israel is targeting Hamas and it needs this operation to get Hamas and it does everything possible. No, Israel is fulfilling. We can see that it is implementing a policy of making Gaza uninhabitable. That's the declared intent, and that's what we see happening on the ground. Israel's plan is to make Gaza uninhabitable.
Yeah.
And so the Palestinians are left with a choice. And this is also just open and it is near as explicit as you can be, that the choice left to the Palestinians is they can flee through Rafah and live in tent cities in the Sinai desert, which Egypt won't let them do because Egypt doesn't want to take responsibility for a humanitarian catastrophe
for Israel's
perpetrated
crimes.
by Israel. So
Right.
So Egypt is not going to open the Rafah crossing to allow hundreds of thousands, millions. The population is 2.2 million. It's not going to open the Rafah crossing to allow Palestinian refugees, refugees repeatedly. Again, remember, 70% of the population is refugees from the 1948 ethnic cleansing or the descendants. At the start of its operations, Israel ordered the 1.1 million Gazans living north of what's called the Wadi Gaza. There's a wetland area that kind of bisects Gaza into northern and southern halves. So everyone living north of that line, 1.1 million people were told to flee south, which many of them did, while Israel was bombing the south as well.